Psychic medium and intuitive coach Christina Trifero joins us today to reignite our belief that connection to the spirit world is possible for all of us. As she notes on her website, your highest self wants to be heard, your spirit guides want to chat, the universe wants to lead. I can translate and teach you how to speak the language. Whether it's leading intuition circles, practicing your skills with other like minded earthly travelers, or guiding clients one on one, Christina brings joy, creativity, and inspiration to all she touches. She shares the changes she's seeing in the world, as well as steps for connecting on a daily basis. Thanks for being here, and here's our conversation. Welcome back to Mystical Sisterhood. This is your host, Maureen Spielman, and today I am sitting once again with Christina Trifero. And I met Christina, I met you through Dara Brustein, and that was a couple of years ago, I think. But I had just re-aired your episode 101, which was called, it was a beautiful title. It was simple, it was straightforward. It was spiritual curiosity and inviting our psychic abilities. So for the listener, we're going to be going into these territories again. I feel like this is an essential part of us, I think, stepping into the multi-dimensionality, which we came to be and access. And I just have to say at the outset, because this is the kind of thing we talk about here, is that when I reached out to you for the replay a week ago yesterday, you were like, oh, I was just pulling clips from our episode. And I'll just say, the previous episode was episode 101, and you'll be around like 186 or 7. So easily a year and a half ago. And how is it that you and I were meeting on some place in the quantum field having the same idea? So, I mean, how does this happen? Great place to start.
It's so fun because I'm never surprised, but I'm always delighted. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm always in awe and wonder each time these things happen, but it happens constantly to me and the people in my orbit. And beyond that, I don't think I told you this too. I had just messaged my operations person. I'm like, okay, I have some space in my calendar. I'd love to get on some podcasts again and pick that up. And then that happens.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of funny because with Mystical Sisterhood, you would think that every other conversation and interview would be with a psychic medium. I mean, I would love that. And it's, always in conversation and everything, but it's not. And so I think when I went to think about, and then it was more intuitive, which one do I want to re-air here? I was just like, oh, Christina. And then kind of just went with it, and then went with that intuitive hit to reach out to you. I'll say for the listener that is just getting to know you, you are a psychic medium. You're an intuition coach and a speaker, of course, but also you kind of, I feel like, yes, those are the titles that represent what you're up to. And you dabble in a lot of different things that I feel ignites creativity and joy and wonder. So today we'll be talking about a number of things, but big welcome. And I think, I always set an intention with my guests before we start, and we just set beautiful intentions. And you had said, what I'm seeing out there in the world is just kind of blowing my mind with regard to how things are growing and expanding. And that was my first question was, what is new in your world and what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, thank you. I think that the availability that people have in their mind and in their consciousness to start talking about concepts, not only from a spiritual plane, but understanding it scientifically as well, as giving people who might not have found me or had any experience with this type of thing some courage to lean in. And the curiosity is such a beautiful starting point to this work, And so typically when I first started, it was people who had experience, maybe they did yoga teacher training, or they had Reiki, or they went to a psychic once a long time ago. And now there's people who are like executives in tech who are all logic and they need the proof. And they're just like, I don't know, like, I just want to learn, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I just think that's such a beautiful, I have goosebumps even talking about it, because the profound expansion that they experience just by coming into a safe place and building it and allowing me to hold the rate of their nervous system of how to expand this stuff and meeting them where they're at is incredible. And then the other theme that is happening as a result of this, and this is between women and men and non-binary people alike, that they are coming in not to talk about their careers. They're just like, I don't know, there's like a little unsettled, like, I don't know what's happening, let me just talk about, whatever, let's see, I want to talk to my guides. And then by the end of 3 months of us working together, so many people are like, I need to do something of my own in the world. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I need to build and I need to grow this thing.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's just like wild to me how many people are doing that. Of course, I have no agenda. I'm not
Right,
leading,
right.
the horse to the
Yeah.
water. I just am watching and guiding. And it's just so profound to see how many people are stepping into their power that way. So I know that
That's
was a long
so
answer, but yeah.
No, those are two great themes and super exciting. And what comes to mind for me is that when we share how it's had real impact in our own lives, to open to guidance from spirit guides. I mean, we can go into it maybe, but whether it's like guidance from our soul, our higher self, our spirit guides, I like the way you've broken that down for me in the past.
Hmm.
But when we begin to see it in our world, and even if it's a solo experience, like, I'm going to play with this, I'm going to see if what they're saying is true. Are there synchronicities out there? Oh, why did I run into that person today? And then we give ourselves like, okay, there's actually some proof here. I'm noticing the magic in this. And then we become, because this is my process, more anchored in sharing, like, oh, I had this experience, like, have you had anything happen like that? Or I recently shared with a person close to me that, and if people have been listening for a long time, I talk about like how it was my mom all the time who came through the electricity and the fan in my back family room. And most recently, a few months ago, I really felt the energies of both of my parents together. But I
Mm,
told this person, and that's 100% absolute knowingness to me. And then she said, oh, actually, I have other people in my world saying similar things,
mhm,
but I don't know. And
mhm.
then following it up with, but it wasn't like, but I'm curious, but it was putting out more evidence that, I guess, just that people in her world were talking about it. And I just think naturally that curiosity you're talking about is like, oh, is there anything here for me too?
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I love to see the evolution of like, oh, it's always this one thing. And now I'm expanding their awareness to more. And I think part of what I get really excited about to see people say, the cultural shift, I'll just back up. The cultural shift around what spirit guides mean has moved far away from this is haunting and this is scary and I don't have control over it and it's just going to come at me and I just have to react to it. And understanding that we are in control. We do have boundaries around this system. We can invite, we can get guidance, and we can also ignore the guidance that we get from our guides. And so people are starting to realize, oh, this is just another conversation that feels healthy in a realm that I don't necessarily have tangible proof of, although we are getting more and more tangible proof. But, just stepping into, this isn't spooky to me anymore. This
Love
feels
that.
safe. This feels
Yeah.
calm. This feels accessible, and seeing someone like me where I'm not, sitting there and looking weird or changing my voice or being like, oh no, this is like a scary entity. Like I don't work in that field. It can be fun and playful. So I'm really excited to see people leaning in because they're just not scared,
That's really
or,
cool.
or
Yeah.
worried. Yeah.
So do you
Yeah.
think that there's a new sort of energy around intuitives and mediums like yourself, or like sort of like archetypes coming through that are more grounded, and that's by design in a sense for it to become more accessible?
Yeah, I think it's just more that you realize, well, there's an infinite amount of spirits around all of the time. I mean, this is anything from the energy of your house to, the people on the indigenous people on the land that you built your house on, to ancestors, to if you go into the Akashic records, there's masters of the universe. I mean, it goes on,
Mhm.
spirit babies. I mean, it goes on and on. And so what you realize is you're like, well, I have a pick of an infinite amount, but I get to just tune in to whatever feels good for me or will serve my highest good at
Yeah.
any time. I will say from a personal experience, this has been really cool, but I've started to do, I guess it's called trans channeling. Have you had a conversation with anyone about this? It's basically like I'll translate, right? So I'll have information come in, and that's from my psychic abilities and the mediumship side of the spirit guides,
Okay.
right? I'm just kind of
Yeah.
like, I hear, I see, I understand. And then I, Christina, can chat about like how to, translate all of this.
Okay.
But what I've been doing more and more is I'm like, you know what? I don't want to have to process and then explain this to you. I'm just going
Mhm.
to speak as
Okay.
the
Yes.
guide.
Okay.
And
That's cool.
often it's
Yeah.
like the masters of the universe kind of like talking for humanity and the collective. And what's so cool about this, first of all, I lose track of time. My
Mhm.
voice does change a little bit, but it's
Mhm.
more like the cadence of it is like this, right? Where I'm kind of like speaking in a way that I wouldn't
Yeah.
chit chat.
Uh-huh.
And what's so cool is like I come out of it and I'm like, whoa, like I just learned so much, from this place. And I don't do it every session, but that's been a profound shift for me of like how much
Yeah.
access we have to that realm.
I kind of had wondered if you were experiencing some changes around that because we're
Yeah.
all on the path of evolution and
Yeah.
expansion. And so
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
complete sense. Yeah, that's really neat. Probably anyone who's listened to those, like even, Esther Hicks channeling
Mhm. Yeah.
Abraham or the
Totally love that.
change in the voice and the
Yeah.
change. And what I find about personally about information like that, like how you're saying, sometimes it's for the collective, sometimes it's for the greater humanity. I
Yeah.
do find it to be these beautiful general messages that are so pertinent
Yeah.
to our lives. And when I listen to things like that, it gives me this expanse of hope for humanity. It gets me in a different vibration. It's like,
Yes.
and these days, I purposefully pull in information and inspiration like this because it gets me in that sort of, I'm just going to say like a feel good state. And it's not
Yeah.
fake and I'm not
Mhm.
bypassing, but I'm actively choosing this is the way I want to feel. And can you talk to us about that? Like when we get into possibly another, I don't know if you say like vibration or frequency, then maybe like we wake up with in the morning, how can that really benefit us and help serve what we're wanting to experience in our daily lives?
That's so beautiful, and I love to hear you experience that. And I want to say to you and anyone listening, one of my core values and beliefs is I'm not special. Sure, I'm very gifted and I've been
Mhm.
practicing a long time, but everyone has access to this frequency. And the reason, and what I found over and over in working with the collective consciousness, is that it's not that we have to find it, it's that we have to arrive back home. These things and this energetic frequency of love, of the highest vibration, of resolving and healing our karma, our past lives, or whatever it is so natural to us. And we forget along the way because life starts to happen, systems start to influence, your family of origins working out their own shit, and so together you just go there. And so when you actually access it, it's very, very simple. It's not easy, it's complex. But truly, when you go to it, you just go, oh, there it is. There I am. All of consciousness is one. There is no separation. There is no this or that. It's all expanse. And so that feeling when you taste it again
Yeah.
allows you to live it again and then watch kind of what gets in the way.
Mhm.
Children are a really good example of this because, they're born just like, everything's good and I trust everything and all I just want to be nurtured and play and be psychic myself and all of that. And so yeah, it's an arriving, I would say, back home to what we already just know. And we've seen this in ancient cultures like over and over again. I mean, this is not news, right? It just takes intention, I would say, to go back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having someone like you, because when we worked together and you were saying, this is accessible to you, this is accessible for us all.
Yeah.
I used to separate like, no, that's for you, that's for someone who's gifted
Hmm.
or got these abilities. And I don't believe that anymore. And I also know, because I'm so conditioned in my human self, that I have
Hmm.
to hear it again and again and again and again. And that's why I also return to the messages. And I had a intuitive ask me recently, Maureen, why do you think that the students in these classrooms are not having the breakthroughs yet? And I said, well, I just think it speaks honestly to our conditioning. And when we think about the messages we got and were steered away from as children, those were on a daily basis. And they came through family of origin, maybe
Hmm.
schooling, all these religion, all these different things. And conditioning is very thick and dense. And so if I
Yeah.
can understand that, like where I can now self reflect and say, like, oh, okay, I've been at this for, X amount of years or whatever. It's like, oh, it's so understandable because you're so conditioned. And if I can listen to that with compassion and
Absolutely.
understanding, it's like,
Yes.
okay, we all are. And it's not about like, why aren't they getting it? It's almost like put that yet word in, or, and if they're curious, they'll come back again and again and again, even if that's not super linear, like next week, the week after, maybe a year or two later, you probably see people returning here or there, coming at different
Hmm.
times. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's got to be part of the progression and evolution.
It is. And I want to say something that's important to note that I've learned now after running these intuition practice circles for a long time. Deconstructing two pieces of what people are seeking in terms of their own, expansion of their consciousness and into these realms. One is, I would say 40 people in the class, only, let's say, 7 of them actually have any interest and natural inclination to speak to the spirit world as a so-called medium. Most of them, because I introduce mediumship, right, of kind of like death and dying and our
Mhm.
responsibility to work with the spirit world and near-death experiences we cover. It's really cool. And then most people are like, that's not for me, actually. I don't want to go and practice that. And that's great to know. And the majority are coming in of like, oh my gosh, it's blowing my mind how much psychic ability I have and how I
Mm,
can now hear my own intuition. I know what is my spirit self and my soul. And they stay in that realm of their own, inner knowing and
yeah.
inner world that they
Mm,
get from source energy. And
yeah.
source energy is much, I don't know, easier is the word, but much more accessible and more natural to everyone than filtering through people, say, who have passed on, and talking
Right.
that way.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting is, you probably know this, but to share with the audience, is not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums are psychics. That plays out in the, say, class of 40, of like 7 people will be like, this is something I'm interested in that I feel inclined to do. And the rest will be like, I just want to practice and advance my intuitive abilities. So I think that's important to know.
Yes.
So I'll just
Yes.
stop there because I got excited about something else you said. But
No,
yeah,
that seems
what do you
important.
feel about that? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So those coming to the intuition circles that say, yeah, it's for a myriad of reasons. And I love just even that it's to tap into, can you speak to this? Like tap into wisdom that exists for me. And then I've been, playing with recently just being in receivership without having to walk away with anything, but putting myself into a receiving state. Can you just talk about like that beginning stage of connection with higher wisdom for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you sort of just named it, which is conditioning. And one of my favorite things to teach is the concept of internal family system, which is parts work.
Mhm.
And we have to start there because you have to start to acknowledge, oh, there's all these voices and protector parts within me that are telling me stories about why I can't trust my inner wisdom and my inner knowing and my soul messages. And so once you start to identify that, then we kind of relax those parts. Then you go, oh, there I am.
Mhm.
There I am. And that tune and that frequency gets louder and more in tune with, like, your source energy, the universe, communication, and be able to channel. And so we always want to start there and creating safety in your nervous system to feel your emotions
Mhm.
in general. Right. And so I spend quite a bit in that realm of working with people of like, let's just start here. Like, where are we on earth? Right. How do we hear this signal? And then it starts to get easier and easier, and you feel safe and safe to like open up and understand what that intuitive messages, and also identifying what kind of psychic abilities you have, all the clairs that are
Mhm.
available. Not everyone can see visuals in
Mhm.
their mind's eye. Not everyone hears an internal monologue, and people don't perceive the world and get messages and hear clarity the same way. So really understanding, like, how am I unique, and how do I get messages, and how do I want to? So yeah, that's like the step one, and I'm not seeing that taught a lot,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah, I love
interesting.
that. I was
Yeah.
thinking about how you bring in the internal family systems work, and that's a
Mhm.
unique blend to what you're doing. And then when I was with a friend recently and we were talking about sort of tuning into abilities and everything.
Mhm.
And I think like it kind of goes hand in hand. It's like, oh, we've been conditioned to think it's audacious to say, oh, I have some psychic abilities, or I'm
Yeah.
clairvoyant or clairaudient, or this is how I receive information. And I think that that's like a part to look at
Mhm.
the part. And even me doing the Mystical Sisterhood, it's like I've said this many times before, is like when I first stepped foot into the space of, I guess it was in 2023, I would have people like you on and I'd be like, oh, I'm here and they're
Yeah.
there.
Uh-huh.
And me doing the hierarchical like pedestal thing was perfect because I
Mhm.
needed to see that none of that was true about any of us. Like some
Yeah.
people, you have more knowledge on this, but it doesn't mean you're on a pedestal or different than me. And
No.
but the allowance of the claiming seems
Yeah.
really important too.
Absolutely. I mean, you nailed it. Like, there should be no gurus in this world. There should be no, I have the answer and you don't, and let me tell you how it is and what it's going to be. It's like, this is a collaboration. I hear so often in the reviews that I get, I ask people for a feedback, is like, they're like, you have so much joy and wonder. You're so like
Yeah.
excited about the things that like happen in these groups. And,
Right.
I never want to posture myself. I'm just there as a facilitator, not as a,
That's really cool.
like, yeah, putting this on the pedestal. And you see so much of that out there. And that's really,
Yeah.
in my mind, pretty dangerous. But, I don't really think about it too much because that's just like
Yeah.
my vibe. What's really cool too is I've been watching TV lately as my guilty pleasure. And there's so much on TV, especially on these reality shows, or even like I was watching Downton Abbey again. It's so comforting.
I
And
love that.
they were doing like a Ouija board in one of the episodes, and this was,
Amazing. Yeah.
this is a period piece in the early 1900s. And I was like, it's everywhere now, everyone's getting like,
Mhm.
oh, I got to ask my psychic, or I got to, ask for a sign, or, so
That's
it's really fun to
amazing.
see, yeah,
Yeah.
it just show up, like make people comfortable to talk about it.
Definitely. And
Hmm.
then you just name some words like when you get the reflection back to you, like, oh, wow, you're in joy over this, or you're in wonder. So I was wondering that, aside from time we might be practicing connect to guides and guidance there for us, are there natural ways that we are just in these states that we might not notice? I mean, what kind of comes to me is like when we're connected when we're in our dream state, or are we
Hmm.
connected when we're in our imagination or our creativity? Because I notice about you that you've got this great substack. And so you're channeling, not channeling, but in a sense, yes, but you're playing, you're in your creative nature, telling stories, let's say,
Hmm.
or sharing a tale about a synchronicity or anything like that. But I feel like this is an important piece, and one that we're sort of rediscovering in these times too, is like, how do we just be in a natural state, and that will also prime us for a bigger connection, I guess.
Yeah, that's such a great question. I was actually just talking about this yesterday. I'm working with a business coach. We're doing a 3-day intensive career workshop at the end of August. And she's done all my intuition practice circles. And she's like, one thing you haven't named and claimed that I've noticed happens, but I want you to share up front, is that you actually hold the space. You create an energetic container where people can go deeper into this than they have on their own ever before. And that's really special, is that you are, being intentional and doing all this energetic work, behind the scenes kind of. I'm not sharing what I'm doing, but I'm working with the energy of the group all the time to create that safe space. And this, again, I'm sharing not because this is special to you have to be in my groups to do this, but I think the practice of that is, it is better together. right? It's good to practice with a friend. And meditation is such, I mean, this has to come up all the time in your podcast of like the practice of getting still and creating a noticing, a being in the present moment, a intentional container where
Yes.
you say, I'm going to open to this and then I'm going to be patient. And whatever comes, I'm not going to overanalyze it or try to overthink. I mean, that's going to happen, of course, but actually creating this space. So it's both not being alone in it
Mhm.
and also, having some sort of stillness practice, presence awareness to be able to access these places. And also I want to say too, like you're going to hear this over and over, but yeah, I'm psychic and can talk to spirit guides for other people brilliantly with extreme accuracy. And then when it comes to myself, forget it. Or my brother's like, can't you just tell me what to do? I'm like, it is so hard for family.
Okay.
Not with people that I know personally, like friends, but for myself. And so just a note that like actually your intuitive abilities are really a lot stronger naturally when you're practicing for other people. And that's why I
Mm,
think the intuition practice circles are so profound, is because I give people the opportunity to be the practicing
yeah.
reader, and then someone is the sitter, who asks a question and everyone's like, wow, I'm so amazing at this. I had no idea
Yes.
that I'm giving it to someone versus answering for yourself. So just to like a sort of disclaimer of like, it's very hard to do for yourself, actually.
Oh,
Um,
that's good. That's really good to know.
yeah,
Yes.
give
And
yourself
it
some
is.
grace.
Yeah, right. And that I agree with that energetic container. And so you're going to be playing with that in a new way with a very playful word I saw in an email you wrote today. Do you want to talk about disco?
Oh yeah. Okay. So this is funny. So again, just like anything comes to be, I've been craving and saying since the beginning, and I know we've talked about this where I was like, yeah, I'm a solopreneur, but I crave community and having, I was imagining like a constellation of healers and intuitives and, if they're craniosacral therapists, whatever it might be, people working in the alien space. I mean,
Yeah.
just people who are doing unique and interesting things out there in the world. I wanted like a trusted network that I could play with, that I considered colleagues, that I could
Mhm.
refer clients to, and then talk to those people and say, how did this go with the client? How can we like holistically support them? And how can I be learning? Because so many miracles happen in my work all the time. And I look
Mhm.
to my side, I'm like, who can I tell about this? Like, I
Yeah.
want to talk about it, and learn and grow and be challenged. Like, again, I want to be inspired. So anyway, I was on a podcast called Disco, which is great. And they had me on and I just said, one day I got this ping and I reached out to Michelle and I said, I want to build this thing. Like, I've been thinking about it. And she's like, oh my God, let's get on a call. I want to do it. Like, let's do it. And in true generator fashion, we just got in a think tank and we just started building, and it was really clear. And what we were actually building not only was for like us to fulfill this dream for what we needed as,
Mhm.
healers, and we wanted to bring it to the masses. And so there was this community created for people who are, let's say, woo curious and want to expand human consciousness,
Mhm.
where they can connect with other people who are in the same kind of realm. And we bring workshops and live events and really curated experience where you can get in there and talk about concepts like this month is, or in July is going to be reality. Like, what is reality? What does this
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
So this was born, and there's a Discord behind it as well, where you can continue the conversations, with people that you meet. And these are world-class experts. So I've ended up coming on as like a founding member
Oh, that's
expert,
amazing.
on this,
Yeah,
where I can support people and also be supported on the
I
back
love
end.
it.
So
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
It's such a fun name, and
yeah,
anything, I can do to support it and share it. And I think that it's
yeah.
exciting though, because I think when I read that beginning question of what is reality, I kind of laughed because when I had the conversation recently, with my loved one about my parents coming through the fan, later I was kind of thinking about it and I'm like, it's funny the realities that we think are reality, that they're actually the given reality, because I'm thinking there's this truth that I'm saying and then
Uh-huh.
there's other truth that's being aired on TV and I'm like, they're both like, I mean, they're both kind of wacky, like from a traditional standpoint, but why
Yeah.
would one be more reality than the other?
Yeah.
And I know whenever I hear psychics and mediums and, intuitives talk about even the nature of reality being an illusion, or there's several realities at one time, I'm like, wait, what? What? The fragments of a soul, or just these kind of like things,
Yes.
the pings that you hear, and
Yeah.
then you want to know more, and you want to know more from trusted sources too.
100%. And
Mhm.
I was sharing, so every month it's a new theme, like you get
Okay.
put into a theme and then you kind of expand on it. But I love that you're not going to get necessarily answers. Sometimes your questions are going to lead to more questions, to lead to more questions, and hearing other people's perspectives
Mhm.
is going to be like,
Mhm.
I don't know where I landed in this, but I'm thinking about it differently,
Yes.
or I have a new like way, or this really changed my mind. And as you can see, reality isn't a topic that is, like you don't have to be interested at all in psychic mediums to join this stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and before I forget, anyone listening can join for free and get started with the code DISCO Christina,
Okay.
CHRISTANA. So
Okay.
offer that to
Wonderful.
everyone. Yeah. And I'll send the link
Definitely.
to you as well.
Yeah,
I
please
want to
do.
tell you another story too that I was so excited about. So speaking of creativity, because you mentioned creativity and being able to channel and how you access that, that's another place that as people expand in this and grow over the course of time with their, let's say the memberships, people work with me in the intensive over say
Mhm.
3 months. Once they get, through the parts work, through their finding safety in their nervous system, through starting to have surrender, hearing their own intuition, you sort of get to this like calm space where it's like, wait, I just feel calm and free, even though the chaos of life is going on. What now? And
Mhm.
every person wants to go back to their creative expression. So that could be painting like they did when they were little, dancing, weaving, knitting. I mean, what singing, and it doesn't mean
Yeah.
you have to be good at it. They're just like all of a sudden I feel so creative. And I've been building this business over the past years, and it's been growing so much. And I'm like, where's my creative expression? I have to get back to
Mm.
the writing, to the poetry, to it all. And I've been like, knowing I'm meant to create an oracle deck with everything that I'm learning, have a playful thing to do, and it just kind of like got put off. I'm like, I'll know when to do it. And one day I was sitting here like in the middle of writing notes for a session or something, and all of a sudden I was like, ding, I need to reach out to Maria Sengel, who's an incredible illustrator and designer.
Mhm.
And I had just met a couple times out in Atlanta. And I was like, I think I'm going to ask her. She'll design this oracle deck with me. And I text her. I've never even texted her before. And I was like, hey, this is going to sound really weird, but I just got an intuitive hit,
Yeah.
of this,
Mhm.
of like you designing. She said, oh my God, Christina, I was just on a walk and I was thinking I would like to design an oracle deck. For people listening, my jaw's on the floor. I just, again, chills, and it couldn't be easier. And she is so talented. It is absolutely incredible. It is a culmination of all of the things that I've been
So
learning and
cool.
teaching. And
Yeah.
it's a meditation journey deck. So you
Oh,
just pull a card and it will be one piece of wisdom, like
yeah.
ancestors, and a
Yes.
mantra, like I
Yeah.
honor those who walked before me. And then a
Mhm.
meditation that you can do and go into. And I'm going to be recording also as a voice meditation guide. So you can pull a card and then go
Yeah.
to the meditation guide and listen and be guided on it too. So
Yes.
I mean, that's just another fun story of like how these things are coming to be in my creative expression and how I'm showing up in the world. So,
And do
um,
you find in your process, because I think it's important for people to hear, that as you've allowed the creativity to flow,
mhm.
to, form this business after being in a different career or careers, and then you took like every step of this journey, that, I mean, I know that our ego and our mind is very important to the whole process, but has this soul led or spirit led or different version of you been the one that's kind of leading the charge more than maybe the way that you grew up thinking, even though I know you've been an intuitive for a long, long time?
Yes, in some ways it gets stronger, in other ways it gets more annoying to keep meeting my own blocks, but that's because I'm human and I really
Mhm,
walk the walk and I'm
mhm,
constantly being a human. And there are these constant like sticky points, right? Which is like a visibility wound. How do I show up more consistently online, yapping away and look in the social media
mhm.
algorithm is like a
Right.
thorn in my side. I just can't understand or, get down with it, but I also get excited to talk. So that thing,
Yeah.
and then money. I mean, money is one of the, stickiest places where my soul will lead and I'll see the path and I'll know to be brave and walk through it. And then as I'm walking through it, I'm like imposter syndrome and deserving stories and, shouldn't everything just be free for everybody and we're in a
Yes.
beautiful great society. I mean,
Yep.
and then it's like, abundance and our right to have it. So yes, I absolutely the messages come really clear. And then Christina as a human has to go and walk through fire and be like, and now we do it.
Right. So
And
you're human, right?
yeah,
You
I'm
are
like, yeah,
human,
of
just
course.
like the rest of
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. But the signals are so clear. And I do have to say, sure,
Yeah.
I don't know that they've gotten stronger. They've always been really strong. And that's, I feel really grateful for that. But the thing that's got maybe easier is just trusting it with blind faith, way
Okay.
more blind faith, where I'm
Yes.
like, you know what? I don't need proof or figure out how this is going to happen or that it's going to happen and all the
Right.
stories that I have of why it's going to go wrong. I'm just going to let
Mhm.
that go.
I
And
love
then
that.
honestly, the hardest
Yep.
part is getting it.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I
Well,
know
and
it.
that thing that you just said about, I follow this one woman and she'll use the language of, her name's Lauren Gorgo, but she'll use the, in creation process, put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of the example you just said of Maria and reaching out for the oracle deck,
Yeah.
that you had an intuitive hit and then you kind of went for it. So
Yes.
it was already in motion
Yes.
before you even had time to really like critically analyze it, because that may have
Yeah.
stopped you, right?
Yeah.
But I did something recently too when I reached out for something, and I it was very much intuition, and the other person was like, whoa, really? And I'm like, yeah, because I was leading from my heart.
Yeah.
And part of me, didn't understand, like, okay, was that, I think, because she questioned, because I had no question about it, and then she questioned, really? And I'm like, yeah, really. But I put something in motion and it felt very natural, and I'm like, just trust yourself, just trust yourself, you're good.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
even it's good because, like, even though I've been doing the podcasting for a while, I've read from so many people. And I think I heard it in another sense today. I'm in this mastermind, and Melanie Ramone, who's been on the podcast a few times, she said something about being in business for 2 to 8 years before.
Mm.
I don't think she was just solely saying before you make money or whatever, but like that you're
Yeah.
really kind of perfecting this craft and then kind of take off. And I love seeing that because it
Mhm.
allows me to be really generous with myself in
Yes.
terms of what I'm creating here. And even though probably around the holidays or something, I'll be at 200 episodes, that I needed all of this to understand, like, what are you actually, what's the messages you're getting across, and I'm feeling those anchor in a lot more strongly now. And
Yeah.
I don't do things as just like with no plan at all, and
Yeah.
I have that intention to be more intentional about
Yeah.
things. So it's the both and sort of. But I love thinking of our businesses because I know that you're in, like, I don't know, is it the last 5+ years or something? This is new, maybe a little bit longer, but that it's
Yeah.
like, if it's for you, and I really believe this right now for those of us doing this work, there may not yet be the return
Mm.
in a financial abundance sense, but in a new world that's being created, I know that that's here, or
Yeah.
I'll say going to be here. But how do you feel about that?
I mean, of course, money is one of the stickiest subjects, and everyone has a different perspective or like way. And then the inroad kind of starts to become focused in the same thing,
Mhm.
which is that it's not our money, it's the
I
divine's
love
money.
that too. Yes,
You know,
yes.
like the universe, you have to let the universe take the lead. And once you realize that you're just someone who has to get on a train when they come into the station,
Yeah.
the universe is working in your favor, no matter if you're obsessed about it or worried about it or over controlling it or not. And how
Right.
nice to just be like, I don't know, I'm going to
Mhm.
get on this train. And then again, having a tremendous amount of faith and then showing up. I mean, you have to be
Yeah.
both
Right.
passive and
Mhm.
surrender and
Mhm.
active when you get the what we call spanda of going and actually doing the step when you get an opportunity or moving through it. And I think
Mhm.
the other thing to think about when you think about money and the money stories is how much of an experiment it all is. To
Love
come
that
from a
word.
place of play, I mean, this is Silicon Valley trained me real good to say, just fail, just try and fail. And failing is success. And just go and just do it, And I'm nervous every time I do something new. I mean,
Right.
I've been on so many
Mhm.
podcasts, and every time before, I'm like, oh no, is this going to work? Am I going to have words?
Yes.
And just looking at it like, just try, and
Mhm.
see
Mhm.
and try to experiment. And then you grow and then you witness and you take inventory and you look back and say,
Mhm.
wow, look how far I've come. Look how much I've learned. Look how many people I've helped. Look how much I've
Yeah.
improved my relationships and my health and taking time. It does take time. That is, patience is not my
Mhm.
virtue,
Mhm.
girl. It's not.
Well, and that whole because you do a beautiful job of talking about and teaching about the divine source energy. About, I remember when you introduced me to Tosha Silver and it's
Mm,
not your money. And
mhm.
I referred that to my good friend Nandi, and she's also like, wow, this is so beautiful, and that's the
Yeah,
kind of book that I put on repeat. But the allowance of the right timing, the right
yeah,
people, the right,
yeah.
like these they're like falling into like a bed of cushions, like the most comfortable, those ideas. And to me, they're everything. To have learned through my process the truth of that and to choose to believe the truth of that helps me greatly.
It is, and it's a practice. Again, it takes time. And
Hmm.
one thing I've realized too is that it's not only not my money, but it's nothing is like this is not my business. In fact, sometimes
Yeah.
my business is none of my business. If this is
Hmm.
meant to be, and if this is meant to support, other people and humanity and consciousness, then it will work. And if it's not, I'll be stopped and it will and so
Yeah.
when I really let go of like, this isn't about me at all, this is about service in a lot of ways and just letting the divine take the lead and flow through
Yeah.
me. It's really
Hmm.
nice. And same thing, like it's not my relationship, it's not my car. Like these are just things where it's just like
Yeah.
you don't grasp, right? You're just like, this is
Hmm.
just an expression, a creative expression of the universe, and I get to be a part of it. How cool is that? I'm being you. I just say, use me how you want to use me. Oh my God,
Hmm.
this beautiful hawk is circling right now. Yes.
I love that. Yeah, because what I hear you saying too is the my car, the my sweater, the my
Mhm,
necklace, the
mhm,
whatever my business is,
mhm.
that without us knowing it is based in separation.
Yes,
And what I
exactly.
hear that when you lean into the oneness of the universe and the oneness of all and
Mhm,
this belongs to all, and if it's meant to
mhm.
be, it'll be. And I love how you always talk about like, and if it's meant to fall away, it will fall away,
Yeah,
because I think your delivery too, and anyone listening today is like can pick up on it, is a gracefulness and a
yeah,
grace and it's not softness, it's just a clarity through grace, I would say. That is
yeah.
your one of your beautiful delivery mechanisms that you allow.
Yeah, thank you. And
Mhm.
right back at you. You're doing a great job of that, a beautiful job to witness. And, talking about allowing the highest level of this is offering, where you say, I offer this to you, divine source. I offer my worries, the business, the money, like I give it over to you. Take this, take the pain, take the imposter syndrome, like help change me into someone who can fully
Mm,
forgive and love and accept myself. Allow money to flow easily, not just to me, but through me back
yeah,
out to the universe. Let me make it easy for me to give freely. And just that offering, it's like a constant prayer that you're in a place of I just lift it up. I'm just like, take it
yeah.
because it's hard for me to hold and carry. It's not mine. So just a
Mhm.
little mantra and trick I use quite often.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you, even, do you make it a way of life, or do you sit down and say, I'm going to have my half an hour here or an hour, or to be sort of in that devotion, I'll say?
I go in ebbs and flows, and right now, it's so triggering to even answer this question because I'm like, my spiritual practice right now is trash. But then I create space for it. So like I just took
Yeah.
6 weeks off for this summer to like go back to my devotional practice. But I will say, because I've had so many deep stretches of working through my own shit and trauma and stories and practice and learning and just being insatiably curious and learning, I've had so much experience with it that it becomes so much easier to just do. It's like a part of
Mhm.
my natural daily
Yeah.
life. And so
Right.
when I seek my devotional practice, it's like, I got to go. I want to keep leveling
Mhm.
up. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to just like rest on the top of this mountain.
Yes.
There's so much more to learn from and grow and go into that practice. I get more information all the time. And so, yeah, I think it's both. I'll catch myself in a moment where I feel stuck or the parts are coming up or I feel activated, anxiety, whatever
Mhm.
it might be. And then I go, oh, yeah, okay, I offer to the universe. Okay. And then I move on. You know, it really is like those micro moments over and over and over throughout my day that just become natural. And I see it too when I guide people, you know, after the 3 months of
Mhm.
working with me, they're like, oh, yeah, it's just kind of breathing more
Mhm.
than needing to
Mhm.
create time.
Yeah.
Also, some people are like, I don't like meditating for 30 minutes. I'm like, then don't.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
whatever you
Right.
want to do. Who
It's
cares?
not the thing that's gonna get
Yeah.
them there.
Pay attention to the way
Yeah.
you wash the dishes. I don't know. You know?
Right. And it's all, I love the conversation too. It's all, this can be all interwoven into our daily life and our daily practices and our daily,
Mhm.
whether it's when you take a shower, like I was just reading about how like taking the shower is so cleansing, and like, or you know,
Yeah.
like in the sense
Oh,
of water washing over you and being in a state of gratitude, or, you know, even if it's a mini connection at that time. But I think one message that's really coming through for me recently is that the guidance is there for you 24/7,
absolutely.
and messages are waiting.
Yeah.
And let's
Yeah,
practice and let's
totally.
play and let's look at
And
the part of our
dream.
lives and
You mentioned that
dream.
earlier of like, you
Yeah,
know, the dream state. You can just set an intention before bed and get the messages then. I love
so
teaching about
good.
lucid dreaming. I have an
Mhm.
article on that.
I
I sent
remember
it
that.
back. Yeah.
And I think when you think of someone too, maybe we'll end with this, is that I had a dream the other night about a coaching colleague. And so I think it's important to reach out and tell someone, maybe not all the time that
Mm,
I've dreamt of them. And when I did, I said, I have a dream of you. And I can't remember the details, but like you were running events or there was an event. She's
mm.
like, I just got asked. When I WhatsApped her the next day, it was just on Sunday. She's like, yeah. And I said in the message, I want to see if there's any overlap. Like, were
Yes.
you dreaming of me, or
Yes.
what was, I don't know,
Yes.
if the veil is getting thinner,
That's
I want to
it.
see where that's happening.
Yes. Oh my God, that's such a
Mhm.
fun example.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Taking
Mhm.
that on and
Mhm.
saying, can you play with me? That's what I mean about collaboration.
Yeah.
Asking people, you know, hey, can I share this with you? Can you tell
Yeah,
me? Do
that's
you
good.
remember? You know? That's
It's
great.
so
I love
good.
that,
Yeah.
Maureen. Oh, it's so nice to be with you too after this time. Like your energy is was just shifted so much. And I love to see
Mhm.
you claiming your own power and
Yeah.
staying in the place of joy and expression and people that you're meeting.
Mhm.
And it's just, yeah, it's really beautiful to be with you again. I'm so
You
glad.
see the part, I mean, you named it. You see the parts when you're forming a business as a solopreneur, you see the parts that still want to hide and are like,
Mhm.
I'm just going to cede the floor to them. I'm going to let them go. That'll be easier. But the real truth wants to be heard. So, you know, as we leave, I think we touched upon so many things, but is there any parting message that's coming through you feel like is important for humanity right now?
You know, today we talked about really sweeping big concepts, and everyone wants to be seen and met and heard. And there's a lot of things that come from a place of privilege of, yeah, well, I can't just start over, you know, my own business. I have a degree as a lawyer and I need to be a lawyer and support my family. And to that, I say, find moments and micro moments of presence. Just one little thing you can do either every day or once a week that just fills your spirit and
Mhm.
creates that connection. It does not have to be a big monumental change. And so if you don't, you know, always feel seen when people talk about these things, it's like just small. And that is your signal to the universe. That is you playing the game.
Yeah.
Don't put pressure on yourself.
Mhm.
It's right there for you.
Oh, that's so good. And if I think of my own journey with regard to that,
Yeah.
when I began to pick up a book that was about the mystical or spiritual or
Mhm.
channeling,
Yeah.
it was probably, I don't even know. I know it was more than 10 years ago, because 10 years ago is when my mom died. And I knew that some of those things were in my hand. At that time, I had no intention of doing
Yeah.
any of this. I had no idea that this was ever on the horizon,
Yeah.
but it felt good. I went
Yeah.
with the feeling and it felt good, and it was
Yeah.
small, and it wasn't a job. It wasn't this, or it was just provided me with joy and enjoyment and potential for new conversations. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
mhm, mhm.
Okay.
So,
Great.
thank you so
Oh,
much. Okay, so we'll share everything for the listener, Christina, and we'll be in communication soon. Thank you to the
okay.
listener for being here as always.
Yeah. Sending you all love. Stay curious.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical Sisterhood. To learn more about my one-on-one coaching programs or join the Mystical Sisterhood membership, visit maureenspielman.com or mysticalsisterhood.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next episode.